What's up, everybody? So, in this video, I want to talk about a theory that I have. So, I don't know whether I'm going to put this in theory series, because theory series has expanded to being more than just like the deep psychedelic theories I have. But I want this theory to be about this idea that I had. I was listening to this thing, and they were talking about Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory, and they were talking about, I forget who said it, like who made this theory, so I'm sorry. I don't know if they mentioned the person's name, but then there's the drunken monkey theory and how they're kind of connected. And I want to talk about how, like, my theory is connected with this, and I want to call this theory the Lotus Eaters Theory. Okay, so the Lotus Eater theory is that in ancient civilizations like Egypt, ancient places like over in Mesopotamia, the lotus flower was there and it was prevalent there. It's known now that the Egyptians used the lotus flower and they kind of like mixed it with wine, and it's known that in Chinese cultures sometimes, like, I think it was Chinese culture or Indian culture, one of them was eating the seeds of the lotus flowers. Another, like the Indian culture, they, like you see the red lotus a lot, in like paintings and just in this whole thing. In Greece, there was these like little get-togethers, you can say, of like philosophers, and they would drink this drink. I think it was called kykeon. But it's suggested that in the kykeon drink, lotus flowers was one of the ingredients. So, my theory is that these humans ate the lotus flower, and then it helped their mind think more philosophically. It helped think. It helped push thinking, more deeper thinking. And because of that, I think that's why these civilizations were able to create what they created. Why modern philosophy came out of Greece, why the things came out of Egypt that did, why, like, Sumeria, for example, which is known as one of the first civilizations ever, the lotus flower would have been growing around there too. So, like, the lotus flower would have been popular back then, like back in the day, because back when the lotus flower was like growing on the Nile, back when the lotus flowers were just growing everywhere, I read this thing that there used to be like trades, because white lotus, red lotus, blue lotus, like they all grow almost in different places. So like, I heard that there was trades between the white lotus and the blue lotus and the red lotus between these different civilizations, like Greece and Athens, India, and Egypt. And the lotus flowers, I feel like, are like this behind the scenes thing that has helped humans expand the mind on a whole level. But it did it subtly. It did it so much more subtle than the mushrooms. Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory implies that basically humans ate mushrooms, which then eventually expand the mind, help us create more ideas and communicate more and think more and all that. And I feel like the lotus flower did the same thing, just much more subtle. And the drunken monkey theory is that, the fruits will fall to the ground, from the trees, and that the ripest fruits, the monkeys would go for the ripest fruits, but sometimes if you let a fruit get too ripe, it'll literally have a slight alcohol content. So if it has slight alcohol content, if they eat enough of it, they'll be getting the slight effects of alcohol, which basically these three things, the alcohol, the lotus, and the mushrooms, I feel like together, these are the things that helped the human mind expand into this thing. And like, this is also why philosophical thinking is lacking in the world today. because when you have these three, like this is like the trifecta of the molecules, the molecule trifecta, the aporphine alkaloids in the lotus, the like psilocin and psilocybin in the mushroom, and the alcohol, which is it works on the GABA receptor. But when you have humans using these things in balance with each other, human beings can like a cell. But we live in a civilization where alcohol is basically the only one that's left out of this trifecta. And now that mushrooms are making a comeback, I see that Lotus is making a comeback, we might see the human consciousness evolve back into what it was supposed to be. Because it was not supposed to be just an alcoholic consciousness. Because I feel like this happened in levels, right? Like the drunken monkey theory happened most likely before everything else. Before the Lotus Eaters and before the stoned ape theory. It was literal gorillas do this still. So like gorillas will still take the ripest fruit, eat the ripest fruit, and sometimes they can get a little tipsy, and it's like squirrels do it. Like, so there's that, but that only promotes a certain level of consciousness that, whatever. But then you start adding mushrooms into that, you start adding different things like Lotus into it, and it starts expanding the consciousness in a certain way, because these things expand the consciousness differently. Each, the Lotus flower, I feel like promotes more Zen, more deeper thinking, more philosophical thinking, and like, so, I could see why if they added that into Kaikian, or if they added that into whatever. There was this ceremony in Egypt, the religion of Isis. And in the religion of Isis, there was this theory that they would have this lotus drink that they would, like, drink. And so if you trace it back, it's like, okay, well, there's, like, myths and theories and ideas and rumors about these ancient civilizations using these things. And as someone who does use the lotus flower, I'm telling you, it definitely promotes more of a Zen thinking, more of a philosophical way of thinking. And if you get a group of thinkers to drink the lotus together and then conversate, I bet it would just help promote deeper conversations and help this thing, which helped create modern philosophy. And just like in Egypt, I feel like the lotus flower had a lot to do with the Egyptian culture and their whole thing. And just the whole vibe of the way they thought, how they said they were a very intelligent civilization for being back in the day. And it's probably because lotus flower. The same thing with the lotus flower influence in India, where it's like Hinduism, it's almost like if Hinduism's sacrament was the lotus flower, that would make total sense to me, because the vibe of the lotus flower has this Zen meditative thing to it. It's just it has the vibe of India, like Indian spirituality, like the old school Indian spirituality. And I almost feel like if the Indian culture reintroduced like eating the lotus flower into the spiritual practices, then in like this old Eastern Indian spirituality would almost come back to life. Because India isn't as spiritual as it used to be. Like Eastern spirituality isn't as spiritual as it used to be. But I feel like with the loss of Soma, which there's rumors that Soma might have contained lotus flowers as well. So like, there's this rumor that Soma and Homa, which these are old spiritual drinks from India, from the Rig Vedas, from the Vedas. And there's Soma and there was Homa. And they theorized that Soma and Homa were like two different drinks, like just do like the same drink, just different recipes. Like there was like some Homas were to give energy, some were for relaxation, some were for whatever. So like it's theorized that there was different brews for Soma, different brews for homa and different types of soma and different types of homas. And it's theorized that the lotus flower was involved in the mixtures of these things, or at least in some of them, because some of the homa or soma mixtures they theorized were only just a few plants. Like there's one mixture that they theorized was opium, cannabis, and ephedra. They theorized that that was one homa mixture, and that there was another homa mixture and just a few others or whatever. But we've lost the record of like what plants and how to make soma. We've lost the record of what plants and how to make the kykeon drink, the drink that the like Greek philosophers were drinking together type shit. We've lost these recipes, but I theorized that the lotus flower was involved. Not that it was the whole thing, but that it was involved. And that because of the aporphine alkaloids in the lotus and because of the way the lotus flower affects consciousness, I feel like it influenced this philosophical way of thinking in the human species and helped us evolve. But now, generations later, now that we're not using the lotus, now that we're not using the mushroom as much, now that we're not using these things, and it's like alcohol took over the human consciousness has degressed instead of progressed. Like, it's not, I guess we're at like a standstill type shit. Like, we have more knowledge, more science, more this, more technology, more all of this, but the human consciousness is in a state which it needs more mushrooms and more lotus flowers. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And this is just an idea, just a thought.